Hello, my name is Mrs. Simpson and I am a form tutor at the Prep. In this presentation I will discuss what maths looks like in the early years, our approach to teaching maths and how you can support your child at home. Maths in the early years. The first few years of a child's life are especially important for mathematics development. Research shows that early mathematical knowledge predicts later reading ability, general education and social progress. Our objective is therefore to ensure that all children develop firm mathematical foundations in a way that is engaging and age appropriate. We do this by using the mastery approach to teaching maths, which is evidence-based and means pupils develop a deep, long-term, secure and adaptable understanding of maths. Maths teaching for mastery rejects the idea that a large proportion of people just can't do maths and states that actually anybody can succeed by working hard. Children are taught through whole class interactive teaching, where the focus is on all pupils working together on the same lesson content at the same time. This ensures that everyone can master concepts before moving to the next part of the curriculum sequence, meaning that no child is left behind. Essentially, achieving mastery means acquiring a solid enough understanding of the maths that's been taught to enable pupils to move on to more advanced material. At the Prep, maths lessons involve a short teacher-led session on the carpet to introduce new learning before children move on to different activities based around that topic. This will often be a mixture of child-led and adult-led activities. The lesson will then conclude on the carpet where we share what we have learned. We also participate in maths meetings, which are short, fun sessions where we recap previous learning to support fluent recall, for example, by singing number songs together. There are 6 key areas of early maths learning, which collectively provide a platform for everything children will encounter as they progress through primary school and beyond. I'll briefly mention each one before going over each area and discussing how you can support your child's learning at home. Cardinality and counting, understanding that the cardinal value of a number refers to the quantity or how many-ness of things it represents. Comparison, comparing numbers involves knowing which numbers are worth more or less than each other. Composition, understanding that one number can be made up from or composed of 2 or more smaller numbers. Pattern, looking for and finding patterns helps children notice and understand mathematical relationships. Shape and space, understanding what happens when shapes move or combine with other shapes helps develop wider mathematical thinking. And measures, comparing different aspects such as length, weight and volume with or without units. There are 5 principles to counting. A stable order, understanding the verbal sequence of counting, being able to say the number names in sequential order. So we learn these by rote, we use counting games and songs. One-to-one correspondence, which is understanding that when saying the names of the numbers in sequence, each object receives one count and only one count. This is something we can demonstrate in front of children when we count. Cardinality, understanding that the last number spoken in a counting sequence names the quantity for that set, i.e. we get to the number and stop. Again, this is something we can demonstrate when counting with children. Abstraction, understanding that it doesn't matter what you count, how we count stays the same. For example, any set of objects can be counted as a set, regardless of whether they're the same shape, colour, size, etc. This can also include non-physical things such as sound, imaginary objects. This is something we can practice together. So for example, we have 2 apples and 3 oranges. How many pieces of fruit do we have? We have 2 cats and 1 dog. How many pets do we have? How many stories should we read before bed? Can you jump 3 times? So counting things even when they aren't physical objects. And finally, order irrelevance, understanding that the order that items are counted in is irrelevant, left to right, right to left, or in a random manner, as long as any object in the set is given 1 count and only 1 count. This is again something we demonstrate when we're counting. This all sounds like a lot of information, but the truth is anybody who can count can do this, and you will be demonstrating this already every time you count out loud with your child. So comparison. Comparing numbers involves knowing which numbers are worth more or less than each other. Studies show that even as young as 6 months, people are capable of comparison. They tested the theory by presenting babies with 2 plates of their preferred food and seeing which they reached for. I'm sure you're familiar with this yourselves. You can support this by encouraging your child to notice similarities and differences. So for example, I pick the bowl with more grapes because I'm quite hungry. There are 4 seats and only 3 people, so we have enough seats for everybody. Composition, understanding that one number can be made up from or composed of 2 or more smaller numbers. This involves what we call part-whole understanding. Learning to see a whole number and its parts at the same time is a key development in children's number understanding. Partitioning numbers into other numbers and putting them back together again underpins understanding of addition and subtraction as inverse operations. So how you can help, you could say, for example, how many ways could you show me 5 on your fingers? You could put up 5 fingers on one hand and none on the other, or you could do 4 and 1, 3 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 4, or 0 on that hand and 5 on the other. Pattern. Seeking and exploring patterns is at the heart of maths. Developing an awareness of pattern helps young children to notice and understand mathematical relationships. Exploring patterns may provide the foundations of algebraic thinking, since they provide the opportunity for young children to observe and verbalise generalisations. And you can support this at home by noticing patterns yourself. So even simple things like, oh look, that bit's got a pattern, it goes red, blue, etc. Shape and space. Mathematically, the areas of shape and space are about developing visualising skills and understanding relationships, such as the effects of movement and combining shapes together, rather than just knowing vocabulary. Spatial skills are important for understanding other areas of maths, and children need structured experiences to ensure they develop these. Here, the focus is on actively exploring spatial relationships and the properties of shapes in order to develop that mathematical thinking. So we can support this by encouraging children to look closely at shapes. Oh, it's a square, how many sides has it got? And also by encouraging them to play with shapes, both 3D blocks and paper cutouts or stickers. For example, you might say, oh, I can see you've used a square and triangle together to make a house. And you'll notice that with practice, children will automatically say this themselves. Measures. Comparing different aspects, such as length, weight and volume, as a preliminary to using units to compare later. At this stage, we don't need to use units so much as lay the groundwork, saying things like, this bag is much heavier than that one, that apple is smaller than this one. You could also measure things in non-conventional units. For example, oh, that tree is twice as big as you. You would have to stand on your own head to be that tall. How you can help at home. You can support learning number names by singing counting songs. There are so many available on YouTube and similar streaming services, and videos can be really useful for this because they can demonstrate counting along with the song. When you are counting, count out loud and demonstrate by pointing at each object being counted. And also, just from time to time, you can try thinking out loud, noticing similarities and differences, and solving problems. Just simple everyday things like sharing out snacks or even getting dressed. 1 pair of trousers, 1 top but 2 socks. What else might you need 2 of? You need 2 gloves. Just things like that. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. If you have any questions, please do speak to a member of staff because we're here to help.